Hello one and all, and welcome back to another episode of Fundamental Forest. We've got another short one today because it is a vacation week for me, but I did manage to scramble one together. We fell on some ill fortune, which you'll discover in just a moment. But for those just joining us, thank you very much for taking a risk, clicking on this video, jumping in. Maybe you were recommended by somebody. This is a series in which we take those skills we've developed in Rollercoaster Tycoon scenario play and we bring them into the big wide world of sandbox play. That's right, we're building stuff from our imagination in a realistic, satisfying way. But there's still loads of tips for the more fantastical styles hidden in here. Yes, lots of these things are kind of universal, right? A lot of the tips that we give are very broadly applicable to many styles. Come on guys, get in the comments and back me up on that. I'm not making that up, right? But I'll just do a very brief call to action. The comments and likes and subscribes that you guys give go a long, long way to putting this series in front of the people who it should be in front of. So I cannot thank the weekly commenters who come on and support us every week. You are doing such a huge favor to the community, helping keep it alive by making sure this video gets shown to new people every single week. So thank you so much. I really appreciate all the comments, all the likes, all the subscribes. Not least of which because it helps me know what it is you guys want to see, and it helps inspire me for ideas for the videos. So if you've got any ideas that you want to see done in this series, you better go ahead and jump in the comments and let me know. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed last week's video, looking at some of the deep past of Rollercoaster Tycoon. And this week, what we're going to be jumping into is discovering the world of contests. One of the funnest, most motivating things in this game is pitting yourself against the skill of others to make your own skills better and to get caught up in the excitement of seeing how yours is going to do in comparison to everybody else. I've had a few people get in the comments and say, I'd like to learn more about like building with parameters and stuff like that. And yes, building with the Fundamental Forest rules set, this very low hacks, very scenario play adjacent build style is very limiting and forces us to get very creative. But there's a whole world of contest rule sets which are extremely important in the context of those contests. And some people wanted to know how it is we negotiate with those rule sets to get the best results that we can. But first up this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the Fundamental Forest map. And I won't spoil it too much. Oh, am I going to spoil it? Am I going to spoil it? I'm spoiling it a little bit now. But anyway, I'll let you get to it. Go ahead, go and get stuck in. You know what, guys? Sometimes something really funny happens and you're not really in the mood to appreciate it in the moment. One of those occasions has just happened. See, I did a bunch of building and recording, and as we know this week, I've not got very much time in order to get the episode out. And when I imported the audio into the editing software, I found out, to my great horror, the audio hadn't recorded. So I was sat there speaking to myself for no reason. So the irony of that happening in one of those occasions where it's really important that I get this done quickly, that's not lost on me. The first time it's ever happened as well. I don't know how it happened, but it did. And I ain't rebuilding it all. I thought about maybe doing like post-commentary for it, but then I'd have to edit it and then do the post-commentary. I'd rather just do a quick roundup now and move on to the next thing. So yes, we worked a lot on this entrance area. We figured out that only the word fundament fits on the sign, not fundamental. So it's just Fundament Forest for the time being, unless something big changes. I don't think we'll go so far as to change the name of the series, though that would be funny. What do you guys think of this design? It's sort of like, I made it symmetrical. I think it's symmetrical. It feels symmetrical, doesn't it? Certainly feels symmetrical. I think we got a really cool sort of crosswalk design here so people can cross onto this part. I imagine most of them would come around the outside, but then we'd have to put the gate over here, and we don't want to do that because the gate's very big, and putting it here, I think that's panned out really well, all things considered. What we should do is we should do the same as what we did over here. We discovered that the best texture to have underneath here is this sandy one, because it just blends the crazy paving into it quite well. And we've got the crazy paving here to distinguish it from the tarmac that we want to use as the road. But then I need to figure out what I want to do to blend this into this part, because it does go back to tarmac. Do we just want it to be just a harsh line along here? Or do we maybe want to add in a little curvature to it, like so? That feels pretty cool. Maybe we'll go with that. I wanted to make the entrance building the same sort of style as these ones here, because these are like supporting buildings to this. We're using t-shirt stands, and I think over here we've got cookie stalls, because those are unobtrusive and they're also very small. They've got that shop feeling that the peeps can go to if they need a little help. And we also worked on this building over here. I carried on developing this area. Now we've got all this additional room to play with over here. It's all very exciting. I also... You guys let me know what you think of this. I brought back the shooting game. This isn't the final, I've just sort of dropped this in here, and I feel like we can get a pretty good design fit into this area here, which feels a lot less clunky than it did previously. Now that we've afforded ourselves a bit more room over here, we can fit this here without squashing ourselves too much. It really was a big brain play to make the map that little bit bigger. Just look at our macro now. That is feeling good. But yes, I'm liking this building. I think we still need to add in some of these features like the broken roofs and stuff like that. Maybe we can put in another tower a bit like this one, perhaps. But yeah, that's more there as a little bit of a proof of concept, as is this thing here. I don't really know how to achieve this diagonal building. They're hard to do. They're hard to do, guys. So my apologies, we've breezed through all of that. That was a lot more meaty of a section, but you've seen these sort of arrived here complete. And we're going to have to move on to the next thing now. Curses, curses, curses. But hey, that's life. We got some cool buildings that we should be happy. Oh, would you look at this? This is a website that we haven't seen on this series before. We've looked at New Element. We've looked at Rollercoaster Database, we've looked at Google, but never have we looked at the DirkLink website. Now I would say, and I wonder if you guys would agree, people who are more in the know, I'd say that the DirkLink community was very much like a Discord community. I'd say that this website is way more for cataloging the contests, putting the rules for stuff. I wouldn't say this is a place where people hang out. I don't even know that there's a forum on this website. The DirkLink community feels like it's very much on Discord, and it is super active. They are super helpful, super beautiful bunch of people with a really, really active contest community. And a few of you have asked how to build with parameters, how to build in a contest setting, how to deal with limitations. And I thought, what better way to explain this stuff than to get stuck in with a competition, to with you guys build a competition entry. This isn't going to replace the Fundamental Forest series. It'll probably just occupy like a little segment each week where I talk more about the more serious side of competition play rather than strictly for fun play. So let's have a look at what we've got here. We've found a contest on the website. This is a currently running contest. We can click on here and we can see what contests are currently on. What a great website. And we can see here on the left, Ride Creation Contest. And the title is Inverted Coaster 2. A sequel. A squeakquel, if you will. And we have quite a satisfying 22 days and 22 hours in which to complete this project. Now, a very important thing about contests is knowing the rules. We know that we have 22 days to complete it. It looks like we would have had 25 days in total if we include this 3 days ago. But we've missed a few because we weren't in the country. But I promise I was thinking about you guys the whole time. I couldn't even concentrate. On my holiday. So let's take a look. It's important that we read this stuff carefully. This first bit is just sort of like flavor text to give a little bit of context. Hey everyone, one of the first ride creation contests we did on DKMP was an inverted coaster contest. It's time to finally revisit this coaster type. For this contest, everyone will have to make a B&M style inverted coaster. Inverted coasters are roller coasters where the rides... I think that's supposed to say riders, where the riders sit in trains below the tracks instead of riding on top of it. These coasters are some of my favourite coasters to ride since they are usually pretty forceful and often have many inversions. I also like building them since it's often very easy to make custom supports for them. There's many real-world examples for you to take inspiration from. And then we've got a visual example. This is something that someone else has built. Looks pretty cool. But as you can see, there's been a lot of hacks put into this, and also some Wacky Worlds expansion. Yes, those spooky expansions. Let's take a look at these rules, eh? Because that is one of the most important things about a contest, is knowing what the rules are. Because if you break them, you get disqualified. It's as simple as that. Rules. You are allowed to make teams of up to 2 people in this round. Rule 1. You have to build an inverted coaster. You must use the inverted coaster track, the B&M style square track, but you are allowed to splice in short sections of other track. This will allow you to do stuff like, I think if we scroll down there's an image there, like if you wanted to do vertical track, there isn't vertical track for the inverted coaster, but you could use inverted impulse coaster track, for example. So this little expanded rule allows you to do stuff like that without getting your head kicked in. Rule 2, you must use the inverted coaster trains from Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, 1, or one of their official expansions. So those rules are basically there to keep you on theme, to keep you on brief. Rule 3, that the deadline for this contest will be on the 27th of October. Rule 4, for this contest you are only allowed to use objects from the Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 and 2 base game and their official expansions. Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 official objects and custom objects that are included in the DKSO V3 bench. Custom objects that are not in the DKSO V3 bench are not allowed, so make sure you don't use those. You are allowed to use a custom palette if you want. So yes, you are not at complete liberty to use whatever objects you want in this competition. You have to stay within the objects that are normally used within the DKSO community. And boy oh boy, have these crazy people done such an amazing job of making the most out of this parameter. These people are smart, guys. Rule 5. The maximum map size for this round is 3,600 tiles. This number will be calculated by multiplying the size of the map edges. You could, for example, make a map that is 72 by 50 tiles or 60 by 60 tiles. Now, this is something I'm not sure about. This 3,600 tiles, that is the same, if not very similar, to the head-to-head parameters, but the rules for head-to-head are, you can have those tiles in whatever arrangement that you want. They don't have to be like square. They don't have to be oblong in nature. But this rule, this number will be calculated by multiplying the size of the map edges. So it seems like they need to be straight to do that. So are we not allowed to make a funky, like, use exactly 3,600 tiles, but have it not be square? I'm not sure about that. I'm going to have to investigate. Rule 6, there is no limit to the amount of open rides you can have in the park. And then, of course, there is the super important stuff here of how to join. We are in the Discord server, but you may have to join yourself if you haven't already. I recommend it. It's an awesome community. I really love the DKSO community. Step 2, build your map and decorate it. Step 3, when you are done with your contest entry, go to my Discord and use the /submitpark command in one of the channels and follow the steps. Make sure our bot can DM you. I've never been part of this contest before, so I'm going to have to find out firsthand how this works. Step 4, if you want to update your story or save file, simply run the /submitpark command again and follow the steps. Wow! After the deadline has passed, I will put up a voting poll with all the entries. In this voting poll, everyone who is a member of my Discord, including you, will be able to rate all the other entries and leave a short review. When the voting period is over, I will announce the results in a YouTube video. Good luck and have fun! Oh, this is exciting. And down here, if you guys need the DKSO benches, there are downloads available here, but I've already downloaded them. What I'm thinking with this, guys, is that we can do this contest, but we can do it. There is nothing in these rules that says we're not allowed to do it using fundamental forest rules. That means our very limited hack set, our very limited object list that we use. What I don't want to do this early into the series, and I know we're sort of like, we've done like 16, or I think this is episode 17 now, but this still feels early. I don't want to get too much into hacking at this point. I feel like we've not discovered all these basics yet, and what we want to establish in this episode is how we begin working within parameters. We don't want to go spiraling off into the lands of hacking and that sort of stuff just yet. So I believe the happy medium that is self-evident in front of us is we use fundamental forest rules, we use these rules, those two rule sets work really well together, there is no contradiction in there, and we use it as a jumping off point to communicate these concepts that we want to communicate. So yes, this is all very exciting. Should we go ahead and get in there? it doesn't say here that we can't use our own workbench. All it says is, all it does is establish that there are limits on the objects you can use. You don't have to use one of the benches. These benches are here for convenience, for people to know exactly. If they're in here, they're perfectly allowed. You can use your own custom one, which has less or... You can't have more objects, but it can have fewer. And I think that's what we'll do. We'll take our fundamental forest bench, and we'll use that, I think. We'll go back to the beginning, and we'll make it 60 by 60, and we'll work from there. So here we are. What we'll do is we'll keep it simple. We'll make a new save of this. RCC1. And we shall save it as that. Now this is a completely... We've changed the file root name, so we're not going to get confused. And if I'm not mistaken, we can just come through. And we can just do this. That's satisfying, isn't it? Just watching them all disappear. That's fun. And then we can do the same with the staff. Goodbye, staff. We can select all of this and just go... Alright, what we'll do now is we'll go back to our resize map thing. And we shall just reduce the size of this edge here. We will have to add in some additional objects, and I wonder if you guys can guess what those objects are going to be. Now that this is really small, what we'll do is we'll make this just by, 20, well, maybe we can make it bigger. We can make it 30. We're just going to make it green. We're just going to go whoosh, 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 whoosh. Give ourselves just ample space. Right, let's just make it 100 by 100. And then that way we won't get too carried away, will we? Nice. And then we'll do the same thing that we did last time. We'll go own all land. So here we go, a nice plain bench upon which we should go ahead and make an inverted roller coaster. Something that's really important for me is having an understanding of where I'm going to begin. Usually we do this by looking for source material. What are we going to use as a jumping off point? Not something that we're going to copy by any stretch of the imagination, but something that is going to allow us to pin our idea to reality. Now, you guys might do this through any number of things. You might look at other people's work in Roller Coaster Tycoon. You might look at concept art and stuff like that. One of the really good ones, something that I've done on the series before, as well as you guys will have seen if you've been watching the series, thank you to the returning viewers, love you, is we hop on the roller coaster database and look at images like this, and we look on YouTube. And I think the two that really sort of tickle my fancy this time around is Montu and Alpengeist. Now let's have a look at this. We can see here, even if we just scoot through it here, we can see here, look, we've got tunnels and stuff, and that's what we love. This is path interaction. I'd say this, it feels a bit cold. This feels like cold interaction, but for a Busch Gardens park where the theming, it isn't like super duper themed, this is pretty good. You know, we can definitely heighten that. We can push it more. And if we scoot through to when the ride's beginning and watch the POV, let's see it get to the top of the lift hill here. We've got a twisted drop there, and it just goes into a big old loop. And straight away we're going down into a tunnel. And there's quite a lot of straight track in that tunnel, so maybe we can use that. Then we do an Immelman, which is where you do half a loop and then a inline twist. We've got a proper inline twist there. And then there's quite an extended bit where it comes out, and then it goes to this Batwing. For no one's benefit, really. We could have done more with that Batwing. This is all stuff that we're going to be doing as part of our series. And up into the mid-course brake run. And then we drop down. Here we are, going through a smaller loop. And I believe I've got a corkscrew to deal with here. Maybe we don't. Does it just go back to the station? No, here's the corkscrew. Swoop da loop. And then up into the brake run, I believe. So loads of super cool interactions with the ground in particular there. And that is a very big layout. which is very unlike the one we're doing in our park, which is very Nemesis inspired, which is a much smaller ride. And then of course we've got Alpengeist here, another Busch Gardens one, and this one is huge and tall. And again, we've got that twisting drop. And you can see Loch Ness Monster in the background there. That's pretty cool. Swoops down, huge drop. And the first thing it does isn't a loop, which is the normal thing. It's an Immelman. And then we go into a loop. And then we're into a tunnel. This is doing like good interaction with like the water and stuff, because there's a big river, obviously, in Williamsburg. We do the Cobra roll, and then we are sort of leisurely entering into the mid-course brake run. And then a fairly big drop. And that's from the mid-course brake run. We go into a inline twist there. Into a corkscrew, and I believe that's pretty much the end of the ride, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken. A helix there, and then we are slowly just going to inch into the station there. So yeah, the things that we want to take away from these rides, right, are how big they are, because we're already doing a small one. We're doing a small B&M, we're doing Nemesis. We don't want to do another Nemesis, as much as we love doing Nemesises, just for contrast, if nothing else. So let's jump in, let's grab this, and let's just see what's going on. What are we thinking? Now all we have to do is just not go so big and long that we break the rules. And I think that's going to be an achievable goal. Give ourselves a bit of space. Now the station is probably going to move, all things considered, because as we established when building other rides, the station is kind of like the most flexible part of the whole ordeal. So we're not going to be there worrying too much that, oh no, our station, it needs to be there. I'm just playing with something here, because that fits into here like this. No, I don't like that. I feel like we want to pull it further out, don't we? So maybe if we do this into that, then we can do now. Here's the question. Here is the question. Do you want to do more of like an Alpengeist thing, where we just have like a huge drop out of it, and then we do this? That only comes to 185, that's 220. So maybe we can do two like that into large half loop. We need to get these guys out to play. Come on, guys. 9 cars per train, 8 cars with 1. 8 cars per trainer. Don't give us flashbacks. Please don't give us flashbacks. We want this to go right as well, don't we? Because just for aesthetics, we want this to be on the outside. I want that to go left as well, so it keeps it on the outside. And then I think we'll come down like this. Look at how massive it is. Like, this inline twist element is just huge. But if you're on a huge ride to begin with, you don't really notice as much. Oh, that goes way too fast through there. That's like killing people sort of speed. I thought I wanted to do something like this out of here, but I don't think it's really working for our purposes. It feels kind of zippy through there, doesn't it? Maybe we can make the loop a bit bigger. This storm, as of yet, has failed to kill us, though it is trying. Trying its mightiest best, it cannot kill us. And we're going to really draw this element out like it is on Alpengeist, and then we will go for a Cobra roll. And if you will, allow me for a moment. Imagine, if you will, this. Excuse yourself. Now this is how Montu looks, doesn't it? So it's kind of like a mix of Montu and Alpengeist right now. I don't think we can get away with a similar thing here, but I suppose that's okay. But how are we going to get out of this little conundrum we've got here? That is the question on the tip of everyone's tongue. Oh, I think I've solved it. It's staring us in the face. Okay, let's watch this design through and just see how we feel about it. I feel like we need more of a transition moment here. It's just a bit too abrupt as it's coming in. Maybe the same at the bottom here as well. It's too tall to only have one piece of track there. And a beautiful big loop there. Nice cobra roll. And I really like this. It's a bit sort of like clunky, but it really works, this transition up into here. Takes us into that block breaks. We need to make those block breaks sort of Alpengeist speed. Maybe just 13 is enough there. And then of course the question becomes, from where do we want the lift hill to be? I don't think we want it to be like that because it kind of makes it a funny shape. And we kind of want to do a cobra roll sort of like out at the far end. It sort of like becomes like an out and back element rather than... The same with this Immelman or dive loop. You want that to be like a way that you return rather than like alongside the lift hill sort of feeling. That's an interesting way of looking at it that I've not thought of before. Straight. No, 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 no. Wow, this game's hard. Do you ever just sit there and think, wow, this game's hard? But how do we make it? Because what you don't really see is straight drops on inverts. They all have a bit of vavavoom to them. Can we contrive like a straight turn like that or something? Is that ugly as sin? It kind of is ugly as sin, isn't it? Let's get rid of all the rest of this. And let's work like backwards from here or whatever. Like this part, I think's awesome. It's getting it to behave from that point, which is the tricky part, isn't it? Maybe we can rethink the sort of order of the elements as well, because what we could have to begin with, like, because the reason why I wanted to look at Alpengeist wasn't just because it's massive and it has good landscape interaction. It has like an interesting first element. It has an Immelman as its first element, and then it does a loop. So maybe we could use that again. It's kind of like Nemesis, how the first element on Nemesis is a corkscrew. It's like a really high up, like slow corkscrew. Maybe we could have like an inline twist or something as our first element. So we could take some like Nemesis, some Alpengeist inspiration, some Montu inspiration to really bring this darn thing to life. But that's for future me. So let's move on to the next phase of our inspiration process, which I think is looking at other people's influential inverted coasters. Now here is Steppenwolf by RCT2 Day. I'll put a link to this file in the description. It's also NCSO, but it has loads of hacks in it. But this inverted coaster layout, I was just looking at it before I started recording, and I was like, I just feel like I want to copy every part of this, you know? I think the thing that we're definitely going to take away from this is the diagonal drop. I feel like that might be the missing ingredient for us, because this one's clearly inspired by Alpengeist, right? Loads of cool stuff. This is from back in the day, guys. This is from 2017, so a year after OpenRCT came out. So RCT2 Day wouldn't have had access to all of the interesting things that we have now, but that certainly didn't stop them from making something that's really, really, really cool. And I remember being very inspired by it back in the day as well. So it's something that immediately sprang to mind. And the way that it interacts with the landscape and stuff like that, just wonderful. The lift hill going through the loop. What's not to love, guys? But I think the main takeaway is going to be getting this diagonal drop in. Diagonal drops are a lot less taxing than diagonal lift hills. I can tell you that for free. And just the drama with this over the waterfall as well. But let's move on to another one. This one is hugely inspiring to me, and it's a name that we've heard on the channel before. This is El Encierro by GWiz and Disneyland. It's like they've taken Disneyland and smuggled an H in there. You see, the thing that's common between these two that we've looked at is this high up bit, which then goes into the drop. And El Encierro manages to get away with this diagonal lift hill by virtue of its like macro more than anything. It gets by with that on its macro. And just look at that, guys. Just look at it. Dipping down into that valley, underneath into this big extended helix element, and then we go into this Immelman here. And then we're doing this big inline twist down back into this valley. Great, great, great batwing placement. If you're coming in through this way, I'd say overall the macro is quite confusing with this park, and I feel like I can clearly see which stuff is GWiz and which stuff is Disneyland. Like, I feel like this corner over here, and maybe this part as well, was very firmly Disneyland. And all of the more broken textural parts over here are way more GWiz, because we can see like echoes of Kate Ridge in here as well, can't we? With some more interesting developments over here. But enough about that. We're here to, and I feel like this was super Disneyland as well. But enough about that. I was saying, we're talking about this coaster. So I think the takeaway from this is we want to get the feeling of the valleys and dipping down into these deep plummeting drops. And this one's got a straight drop into here, but it does start off with a curved one into that straight drop. So maybe we can leverage a bit of this stuff in our work. Just amazing, amazing stuff. Super influential on me. And I feel like it's super influential now as well. So yes, if we bring that back into our little very early conceptions of what we've got going on here. Let's see what we can do with that. I feel like it does kind of work, but I feel like the footprint's sort of funny. It would benefit from getting rid of this turn here, maybe having this going straight into this loop, which would be a bit disappointing because then it would put them all sort of in a row, but maybe that's fine. Let's just watch this, because maybe we can get a bit more creative with the footprint. Comes down and nice into there. Dropping down, got the, you know, the turnaround there. I think this bit here is great. And it just jumps back and over into this mid-course brake run, and then we're off into the next part of the ride. But what is that next part going to be? That is the question. I tell you what I'll do. I'll save this as a file in and of itself, and we'll move on to the next idea, because I do quite like that one, but it's not there for us, is it? It's almost like I can see the potential of it could be really good, but it's not really good yet. I can almost see a path through here, but I don't think it really exists. Okie dokie, that feels really good like that. Right, let's just plop a station just so we can test it more than anything. This is really working for me here. Look at that. That is a work of beauty. That is a knot if I've ever seen one. It feels very small in comparison now, doesn't it? Despite the fact it's huge. Very compact. Goes handily through that Immelman. Down and into the loop. And then we're zipping up and over into the mid-course brake run here. And then what are we doing? What are we doing here? But hey, here we are. I'm feeling really good about this. This is about as far as I've got. Let's just delete this station so we're not getting confused by it, thinking that's permanent or something. I wonder if we can get just the station just to be... Maybe if we do like the brakes here, we just go doot doot doot. And then this can be like a walk-up path here, like a big... Make it maybe a bit more plaza-y, and then we can have the queue like going off and under, and then we could do like something like that with the queue, but then it's all about getting back over there. How do we do that? So that's something, I suppose. Very early days in getting that figured out. But I'm kind of liking the macro we've got going on here, and I'm excited to see how it continues to unfold moving forward. However, I don't have very many minutes until I need to upload this video. Before I go, however, I want to summarize a few of the tips that we've gone over in this video. So tip 1, you gotta read the rules. You gotta read them. If you don't get the rules right, you can spend all the time that you want trying to get a really good entry, but if you've not read a rule properly and you accidentally end up breaking a rule, you might find yourself very disappointed indeed, and that's what we want to avoid. Tip 2, find some source material, whether it's on the Rollercoaster database, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's with other people's work. We had a look at all of those things today. The next tip is build on a map that's too big. Do not start on a 60 by 60 map. That is a fool's errand. You can always make the map smaller. It's much better to give yourself ample space to have the ideas that you're going to have, to let them unfold the way they're naturally going to unfold. And the final tip, it's the oldest tip of them all. You guys know what it is. Say it with me. Iterate, iterate, iterate. Don't be afraid to go back and revisit those ideas. We never would have got to this really cool, compact invert design if it weren't for our willingness to go back and change stuff. So that's what we've got to do, guys. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for joining me today and taking a little dive into the world of contests. As this series goes on, leading up to the deadline for the contest, we're going to get into more tips and tricks. So if you feel like, wow, we didn't really get into much, all in due time, guys. If you've got any pressing questions about what you really want to know about contest stuff, please leave it down in the comments. There's other people around who can help you out as well. There's other people who have contest experience, and maybe what I'll do is I'll get talking to some guys about their tips for contests. I know that friend of the channel Steve has been doing these DKMP contests recently and has been doing really well in them, working alongside the venerable Pacificoaster, another now veteran of the DKMP / New Element style of building. But yes, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate you. Sorry for the shorter, more jumbled video. I've not got much time this week, but you guys are super patient. You've been loving the stuff that we've been doing so far. Back to regularly scheduled business next week, I hope, and I'll catch you in the next one. Lots of love, guys.